this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet the Zig Zag puff stitch, sometimes known as the Zig Zag spike puff stitch. Really beautiful. It's a 2-row repeated pattern once you get your setup rows done, but actually it's only the starts and the ends of the rows that are different, meaning it is the same on the front or similar on the front as it is on the back. Really beautiful, dense stitch. Is a little bit of a yarn eater because you're doing puff stitches pretty much all through the piece, so make sure you do have enough yarn to complete your piece, which is a really lovely stitch. So let's have a look at the tutorial. So for this tutorial I'm using 3 different coloured yarns. These are all Stylecraft Arons. You can do it in 1 colour, you could do 2 colours. I just wanted to show you how it would work in 3 colours. It is a bit of a yarn eater, so make sure you have enough yarn for making the size project that you want to make. I'm going to be using a 5mm crochet hook. You can use whichever weight yarn you like with an appropriate crochet hook size. I have scissors to cut off my end, needle to sew in my end, and a stitch marker just in case I need one. So we're going to start off by making a foundation chain. So I'm going to make a slip knot. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. And our foundation chain needs to be made in multiples of 2. So to do that, you yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, that's 1 chain, yarn over 2, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 4. So keep going until you have the width of the project you'd like to make. I think I'm going to go up to 20 for this one if you'd like to make a sample piece along with me, and I shall see you in a moment. So pause the video now. So I have my foundation row of 20 stitches. And we're going to be working in the 2nd chain from the hook, so we don't count the one on the hook, so 1, 2, and we're going in there with a double crochet. That's UK terminology. In US terminology you're going in with a single. So you'd insert, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both of those loops. We're then going to put a single or a double crochet into each of the chains all the way down the row until you get to the end, and if you're changing colour, we're going to change colour on the very last stitch. So pause the video now whilst you put a double crochet into each of your chains, and I shall see you at the end of the row. So I'm coming up to my last stitch, so I'm going to insert, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, and instead of yarning over with my first colour, I'm going to add on colour B. So I find the end of my first colour. There it is, hiding. Place that around my hook and then pull that new colour through to finish off. Now if you want to, you could tie the 2 short ends together to stop it moving around, or you could leave it and tie it in later on. It's entirely up to you. So I'm not going to cut off this colour, I'm going to carry this colour up the side because I don't want to keep weaving in ends. So I'm now ready to do row 2, and row 2 is a chain 1 and turn our work. Chain 1 does not count, therefore we're going to work into that very first stitch, and I'm going in there with a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to skip the next chain, and in the next stitch we're going to do a puff stitch. So to do that we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. You should have 7 loops on your hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on your hook. Now you might find it easier to do a couple at a time, or you might be able to slide it through. So there's our first puff stitch. We're going to chain 1, that's to close and to travel, and we're going to skip the next stitch and do a puff stitch in the next stitch. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. You should have 7 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then pull through all 7, chain 1, and we're good to go for the next one. So we're going to do this all the way down the row till we get to the very last stitch. So we've chained 1, skip 1, yarn over and do your puff stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and pull through, chain 1, and we're good to go again. So continue down the row doing puff stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, puff stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, all the way down till you get to your very last stitch, and I shall join you at the end of the row. So come to the end of my row, I've done my last puff stitch. I'm going to chain 1, and I would skip the next stitch, and then in the very last stitch we're just going to put a double crochet. That's UK terms, single crochet in US. So through both parts of that stitch we're going to do a double crochet, but I am going to change to my new colour, ready to do the third row. There we go. So for row 3, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. Again, the chain 1 does not count, therefore we're going to work in that very first stitch there with a double crochet. And then we're going to be working into 2 rows below. So this is 1 row below, this is 2 rows below, and we're going to be working into the stitches between the 2 puff stitches, and in there we're going in with the puff stitch. So we're going to be working around this part and this part of the stitch. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, you see you come out the back, yarn over, pull it back through. That's 1, 2, 3, make sure you've got your 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yarn over and pull through all 7, chain 1, travel over the next puff stitch, and we're working in the same stitch 2 rows below between the 2 puff stitches. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7, and chain 1. And again in the next stitch, so we're going to skip the puff and we're going to work into that 2 rows below stitch, the double crochet between the 2 puff stitches, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and the third one, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7, chain 1. So we're going to work that way all the way down the row until you get to your last puff stitch between these 2 puffs here, and I shall show you what to do at the end of the row. So pause the video now. Okay, so we're going to work our last puff stitch into here. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. Going to chain 1, and then in the very last stitch we're going to do a double crochet. Remember, that's UK terms, that's single crochet in US. Now, nearly finished off that stitch there. Now I want to go back to my original colour, my colour A. So I'm going to bring that up the side. I'm getting all twisted with the other colours here. Yarn over, pull through, and don't pull it through too tight otherwise you'll end up with bunching, so make sure there's a good amount of give in the side of that stitch there. Okay, so that's what we should have so far, and now we're going to work on row 4 and then row 5, and rows 4 and 5 are the repeated pattern for the entire project. So for row 4 then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, chain 1 doesn't count, therefore we're going to work a double crochet in that very first stitch and chain 1. We're then going to work into this space here. So you've got your blue puff stitch, you've got the pink, and then there's the beginning stitch and the next stitch, and we're working into that gap just there with a puff stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and chain 1. And then we're going to be working 2 rows below again into this gap here. So skip the blue puff stitch, and where I've got the pink puff stitch, obviously your colours will be different, you're going into that gap there that's sort of between the 2 puff stitches. So yarn over, insert, and we're going around both parts as we did before. So 1, 2 and 3, yarn over, pull through all 7 and chain 1. Skip the next puff stitch and then working into that chain space there. Do another puff stitch and chain 1, and then do the same in the next one. We're going to do that all the way down the row. So pause the video now whilst you work all of your puff stitches into the chain space 2 rows below and chain 1, and I shall see you just before the end of the row. So pause the video now. So I've just worked my last puff stitch, chained 1, and now I'm going to do my double crochet into the last stitch, and I'm going to pick up colour B or colour 2, whichever way you started numbering them. So I'm going to pick up the pink again. Again, don't pull it too tight, otherwise it will bunch your work up. And we're ready to start row 5. So for row 5 then I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. I'm going to double crochet in the very first stitch, because remember that double crochet doesn't count, so that chain 1 doesn't count. And then we're going to work into the chain 1 space. So we're going to skip the puff stitch, so slightly differently. In row 4 we work just before the puff stitch of the previous row. In row 5 you work just after it. So skip the puff stitch, find the gap, the chain 1 space between the blue and the brown there, and work your puff stitch into that space there. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, so it's 1, 2 and 3, and chain 1. Skip the beige puff stitch and go in just before the blue one of the previous 2 rows. And from now on we're just repeating, so I thought I hadn't done my chain then. From now on we're just repeating rows 4 and 5. So continue down row 5 and I shall join you at the end of the row. So pause the video now. So I've worked my last puff stitch there. Going to chain 1, it's going to travel me over to the end and work a double crochet into the last stitch, remembering to change colour, and I'm going to colour 3. chain 1, turn my work. We're now going to be repeating row 4, so double crochet in the very first stitch, and then we're going to be working into the 1 chain space on that beige row. So there's the single crochet, there's the puff stitch, and that's where we're going to work our next puff stitch. Chain 1, and then skip the pink one, and between the pink and the beige there's your chain space. So it really is just the beginnings of the rows that are slightly different. The rest of the rows just carry on in exactly the same way, skipping a puff stitch, looking for that 1 chain space from 2 rows below and popping a puff stitch in there. So I'm going to work up a few more rows for you to see how it looks, and I shall see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows for you to see how it looks, and it really is an absolutely gorgeous pattern, really nice dense fabric. As I said before, it's a little bit of a yarn eater, but actually you do get a really lovely, quite sturdy fabric with it. Obviously it's the same on the front as it is on the back, because it's only really the starts and ends of the rows that are slightly different. Now this works with 3 colours because, as you can see, I've got 2 working yarns on one end and I've got 1 on the other, and they sort of swap ends, if you like. If you did it with 2 colours, you may well have to finish off after each row. I think it works really well with the 3 colours. It really makes it pop out, especially if you have one that's a neutral. It really does make the other colours pop out. So that's how to do the zigzag puff stitch, or sometimes known as the zigzag spike puff. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps YouTube show it to other crocheters and helps their algorithm do all its magic. If you've enjoyed seeing my stitch marker today, this is my little kawaii cow, which is available in my Etsy shop, and also I shall pop a link somewhere around the video for buying it in my Shopify shop. I shall pop 2 more videos on the side of the screen to help you on your crochet journey, and I shall see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!